Hello dear students, in the last lecture I have already discussed what are the two important characteristics exhibited by any matter in order to create a force or experience a force in the vicinity of any other matter. So on the basis of that we should be able to easily define what is an electric charge. So what is an electric charge? It is the property of any matter because of which or by virtue of which it should be able to produce or create a force and experience a force in the vicinity of any other matter. Okay, so what is an electric charge? It is the property of any matter because of which it should be able to produce or create a force and experience a force in the vicinity of any other matter. Okay, now before start discussing about this electric charge in detail, I just wanna relate you with its SI unit. The SI unit of electric charge is Coulomb. Okay, and dimension of electric charges, you all very well know, you all have studied in your class 10th level or 9th level that what is charge? The product of current with time. So current denotes ampere with time, and this is the symbol of dimension for time. So 80 is the dimension we use for electric charge. Now it's come to discuss the properties of an electric charge, but before that I just want to relate you with the brief history of an electric charge, because that is again a very important topic regarding your board level exams, right? So might be 2 marks question or generally 1 marks questions may come from that side. So I just want to relate you with that. Okay, so if I talk about the history of charge, okay, history of charge, then it was the Charles Dufay, okay, Charles Dufay, who first suggested that there are 2 types of charge. Okay, so because a long centuries ago there are different scientists, okay, they had start observing various phenomena in nature. Okay, they had made their own suggestions, they had made their own conclusions. Okay, and some of them highlighted their result at that time. Okay, so one of the scientists was Charles Dufay. He performed a series of experiments on different bodies. Okay, and his study was actually based on the experiments performed on glass rod and resin. What is resin? Resin is actually a plastic like material. Okay, so he had performed several experiments on these 2 objects by taking these 2 objects, rubbing on the other 2 objects like silk and fur, and made their conclusion. So what is the reason behind giving the suggestion that charges are of 2 types? I just wanna explain you through an example. If I consider this is as a glass rod and this is a resin material or a plastic. Okay, so what he has done, he has first rubbed this glass rod with any material, like let's say with my hand. So when I rub this material with this hand, I just wanna tell you that this rubbing is also one of the method to produce a charge on a body. So what he observed, that when he trying to bring this body towards the bits of paper, this body should be able to attract the piece of paper. Okay, the same thing he has tried with this body, which you call it, let's say call it plastic rather than call it resin. Okay, because with that word you are much familiar. And he again start rubbing this with his hands, and again when he brought that body near to the bits of paper, again this pen will starts attracting that papers. Okay. Now he was stuck at a point when he has done one experiment again. I mean, again he has taken the same material. Okay, if I say this is a glass rod, so he has used the another glass rod, and again he had rubbed that glass rod with his hands and charged that rod. And when he trying to bring both that glass rods together, the result were completely shocking to him, because initially he thought that this force should be only able to create a force which is attractive in nature, because initially when he rubbed with his hand it was attracting bits of paper. Again when he used plastic, again this pen was attracting a piece of paper. But when he uses the same material, so he found that the two bodies will start repelling. So he was confused, what is the actual force acting between the bodies? I mean, whether it is an attractive force or a repulsive force. So in order to explain that, he was the first who suggested that there are two types of charges. Okay, there are two types of charges. Okay, so Charles Dufe, I mean, he got the credit in order to suggest that there are two types of charges exist in nature. Okay. Now he made a conclusion that when we bring two bodies of same kind together, when we bring two bodies of same kind together, then they repel each other. They repel each other. And in the other way, if we bring two different bodies close to each other, if we bring two different bodies close to each other, then body will start repelling, then body will start attracting. So these are the two conclusions made by him. Okay, so this is the history behind the classification of charges, that there are two types of charges. Okay, so he classified different materials based on their experiments and gave it a name: vitreous and resinous materials. Okay, vitreous materials are those which nowadays are considered as a positively charged materials. Positively charged materials, that means the materials which acquires positive charge on rubbing, and resinous materials are the materials which acquires a negative charge on rubbing. Okay, I wanna give you some examples regarding such kind of materials, that means what are vitreous materials and what are resinous materials. So vitreous materials are the materials which are positively charged materials, which you call nowadays, and resinous are negatively charged materials. Okay, some of the examples of vitreous materials are glass, crystal, hair, etc. Similarly, resinous materials are amber. Amber is a material found near to the vicinity of sea. Okay, at older times, amber was the famous material because the first experiment was actually done on this material, amber, which found near to the sea. Okay, then silk, thread, and paper. Okay, so this is the history regarding the types of charges. Now comes to the next person. Okay, the next person was Charles Dufay. After Charles Dufay, the next person was Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin. Of course, the founder of US, United States. So Benjamin Franklin was the first who give the charges a name as positive and negative charges. Okay, he gives charges a name positive and negative. Now there is a reason behind giving these two charges a name as a positive and negative, because in the 18th century, whenever he has trying to bring the two bodies which shows opposite phenomena together, okay, when they trying to bring that two bodies close together, the property of attraction or repulsion vanishes away. So he started thinking, if one body is having one type of charge, other body is having the different type of charge, and is it possible the property of attraction or repulsion goes away when they trying to bring them together? So this is actually possible in mathematics. If in mathematics you consider one thing as a positive thing, other thing as a negative thing, and if you're trying to bring that two things together, then it will give you the result 0. Okay, so this is the reason behind considering the charge as a positive and negative. Okay, and one thing that is very important to you, I just wanna explain you that the choice of given the term positive and negative is completely arbitrary. This means that it doesn't matter to which body you are considered as positive and to which you are considered a negatively charged body. It's just a convention. Okay, it only helps you to determine the flow of electrons from one matter, or you can say from one body to the other body. Later on I will explain you there are different methods of charging, in which rubbing is one of the important method to produce a charge on the body. Okay, so when two bodies rub together, then the bodies will acquire charge. Both the bodies will acquire charge whenever you rub two bodies together. Now it is totally up to us that to which body we will consider as a positively charged body and to which body we will consider as a negatively charged body. But in our convention system, we choose that body as a positively charged body, which will be electron deficient body or electron deficient body, which loses an electron. That body will be considered as a positively charged body in modern theory. Okay, similarly a body will consider as a negatively charged body if it has an excess of electrons. Now the last and important person, that was Michael Faraday. He had also performed several experiments. Okay, Michael Faraday, I think you all are familiar with his name. He had also performed several experiments by rubbing different objects together and made a series known as electrostatic series of object. Okay, so he made a famous series of object known as electrostatic series of object. Okay, according to him, the materials or objects which are placed former in series, the materials or object which are placed former in series are considered as positively charged body whenever it is rubbed with a material which is placed later in series, So I just want to give you that series because that series is very important to all of you. Please, you learn this series because this series will help you in order to identify the type of charges acquired by the body when they rub them together. Okay, so please learn this series. The first material that will come in this series is fur. Okay, after that we have a glass rod. Then we have a flannel. Flannel is of course a woolen like material, like you all wear woolen clothes in winters. Okay, so this is wool like material. Then we have silk. After that we have metals. Then hard rubber. Then wax. Then resin. I have already explained, you call it plastic nowadays, plastic. And the last, sulfur. Okay, so this series is considered as an electrostatic series. In this series, the material which is placed former in series, that means in first position, or the materials which is placed later in series. For example, for this material is considered as later and this is former. If I compare these two materials, fur and metal, then fur is considered as a former in series and metal is considered as later in series. So if I take an example, if I take glass rod and rub this glass rod with hard rubber, so this is a material, glass rod is placed former in series. So when you rub this material with hard rubber, so glass rod always acquire a positive charge, while hard rubber will acquire a negative charge. So this series will help you to explain various questions which may ask in your board papers, like what will happen if glass rod is rubbed with fur, or glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, and various other questions like that. Okay, so in this way you should be able to explain which body will acquire positive and which body will acquire a negatively charged. If you want to explain it with modern theory, then it is also very easy to explain it through our modern theory, that you all know. I have already explained that it is only the electron which is getting transferred from one body to the other. Okay, so the body which is having excess of electrons acquire negative charge, and the body which is deficient of electrons will acquire a positive charge. Okay, so if I say when glass rod rubbed with hard rubber, so according to this series, glass rod acquires positively charged and hard rubber acquires a negative charge. So what will happen that glass rod acquires a positive charge and hard rubber acquires a negative charge? The basic reason is when you rub glass rod with hard rubber, the electrons which are of course loosely bound to the glass rod is transferred to the hard rubber, because now hard rubber acquires a negative charge, that means it is having an excess of electrons. So electrons will getting transferred from the glass rod to the hard rubber. This is the reason the hard rubber acquires a negative charge while glass rod acquires a positive charge. Okay, so these are the few questions that will help you, right, in order to explain the things. This first paper I have already explained you in my first lecture, okay, one by one. Now if you want to study the modern theory, right, of course this lecture is almost covered with 18 or 19 minutes. I am just facing a few problems regarding uploading this video, because when I am uploading, when I had uploaded the previous video, the pixels, I don't know how they changed at that time, how the pixel was changed. So I just want that to cover this video in 20 minutes only. Okay, so I just want to finish this video. So I will explain you the last topic, that is what is the modern theory behind this electric charge, in my next video. Okay.